Hi there. Well, the trees have arrived, so it's time to start getting them in the ground. The trees have finally arrived. I've got 177 to put in this season, and here they are. Here we've got some nice looking bush to Bedevac and Labor Days ready to go in. And once again, as talked about before, I've marked where they go with a little flag. Now, normally in years past, I would have put Roundup around the flag about 2 weeks prior to planting to kill off the grass. And then I end up putting down straw for a mulch. But as I talked about in the past, I'm gonna try it without the straw this year or the mulch, in that I've been getting rodents, little tiny mice or voles, housing over winter in the straw mulch, and then they end up girdling the tree, or chewing on the roots. So I'm gonna try to avoid that and see how it goes without mulch, and I'm leaving the grass around it. And I know there could be grass encroachment on the plant, but I'm gonna leave the grass around it just to see if that works as kind of a mulch too, to keep the ground warmer during the winter for it. So this is how I go about planting one of these trees. Well, first off, grab the shovel and dig your hole. It doesn't have to be too deep because it's just a 10-inch pot. So you do got to break the sod. Take the flag out and store it for later. There we go. Nice looking soil in this one. Try to loosen up the soil in the bottom of the hole a little bit. And if you got any clumps, it's easier to break them up in the hole. Couple more out. There we go. Now we select the plant. This one here looks like a beauty. Take her over, wiggle the pot off. Yep, fits nicely. And then I like to just loosen up the roots just a little bit. Kind of release them from that root ball they're in. There. Get dirt all the way around and in the cracks and crevices. Yeah. A little pat down. And that's it. One tree in, off to the next one. Now, this is kind of interesting on this little tree. It has some burrs to it. I'll spin you around and take a look. This little guy here has 2 burrs. Let's remove one and see if we can get a chestnut out of it. There we go. All right, these little spiky things, you can see it's starting to turn brown already, and as it browns, it opens up, and inside are the chestnuts. Now, you really don't want to touch those things because they are just like a pin cushion with needles put in backwards. But let me use my feet and see if we can open one up. All right, and there you see it. Couple small. This one's pretty good. It's got a split on it. Might have been from when I did it. Let me open this up. And you can see the chestnuts are nestled in there. There's usually 3 per burr. These are not quite ripe because they haven't fallen out yet, but there they are. There's some chestnuts. All right, got the last tree from this trailer load planted, and let's go get some tubes to put on the trees. Well, it's 9 o'clock in the morning already, and it's hot out here, so time to get rid of the shirt and put the sunscreen on. Don't forget the sunscreen if you're working outside, and a hat. And now, since all the trees are planted, time to put the tubes around them. I put the tubes around them for deer protection, and they also limit the amount of pruning that needs to be done at a young age. I'll still need to go through and prune, but I won't have a pickup truck load of prunings to get rid of. So, remove the stick, put the trash in the trash bucket, and pound a post in on the upwind side. Which would be right about this direction. Now, as I've probably mentioned several times in the past, these are my favorite brand of tubes. They come in a sheet. You got to wrestle them to get them on the tree, and I feel they don't have enough aeration holes in them. So what I ended up doing was I created a jig that I was able to clamp, about 25 of these together, and then bore more holes. So I put probably 2 to 3 times as many holes as were originally in this thing, and I still don't think it's enough. But it's what I have, so it's what I'm putting on.
And the wrestle match begins.
One of the tube I like to put on is actually a tube, and it comes with a nice fiberglass stake. And they say to put the fiberglass stake on the inside of the tube, which I do when I'm installing those tubes. These tubes originally came with wooden stakes, and those wooden stakes, man, they've rotted off and have been causing tree damage ever since year 2. So I'm switching and trying rebar on them. But the big question I've been having is, do I put the rebar on the inside or the outside of the tube? The rebar is not smooth like that fiberglass post, so I don't want, so it might just cause abrasions and other damage to the tree if the tree ends up rubbing up against it. So, the question is, inside the tube or outside of the tube? Maybe if you have an opinion about that, you can drop a comment. Well, that's my dilemma for today. And I've been kind of doing back and forth. It depends kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm putting the tube on. It is much easier to put the post inside the tube than on the outside. All right, she's done. Bend these down so we don't have a sharp edge up against the little tree stalk coming out of the tube. And this one's good to go. There we go. Well, I thought I'd show you this one. This is the tube type that I prefer. It is actually a tube, and you can see has all these little perforations all the way up and down it. Its length. It's for good airflow through the tree, and they're much quicker and simpler to put on. Just take the tree, take the tube, slide it over top, gentle with the leaves, give it a couple shakes to make sure the tree's not bent over, and 3 fasteners as opposed to 5 with the other tubes. I really like these. I put in an order for these tubes for this planting, but they didn't have any of the fiberglass stakes in stock. They finally did get some in stock, and I have an order coming in, but probably won't get here for about 4 or 5 days. So I'm using what I have. Even though I don't like them, I'm putting them on because if a deer hits one of these trees, then I lose that tree. So this is my preferred tree. The other thing I do is slit the top. Hey, get away from me, little wasp. To give it fingers, so that when the tree does eventually get out the top of the tube, it will not present a sharp, ungiving edge to the delicate little tree. And then, to top off the installation, if the tree's not out of the tube, you gotta put one of these nets over top of it. And what these nets do is they keep birds from nesting in the tube, which is unfortunate because the bird goes into the tube thinking it can nest in there, and then it can't get out, which is really sad for the tree, for the bird, because it'll die in there. It's kind of unfortunate for you too, because when you come through and check on the trees and you're cleaning all the leaves out of the bottom, you come across a dead bird. That's not fun. So that tree's done. Off to the next one. Well, it's been 3 days since we last spoke, and here it is. Tree number 177, the last and final tree to put in for fall 2021's tree planting. My tree tube should be arriving this afternoon sometime, so tomorrow will be spent putting tree tubes on, but it's only about 10 in the morning right now and the last tree's in. So it's time to run around and water them. All right, it's time to water these trees, and this is how I do it. I take the old mighty F350, put on the little snowmobile trailer on the back of it, and load an IBC tote on it. Fill the tote with water, hook up some plumbing to it, and then just let it gravity feed right on out. Then I drive around tree to tree, stops at the end of the hose, stops at the base of a plant for about a minute, and then drive on to the next one. And that completes planting for fall of 2021. So far in my orchard, I've got 574 trees. Probably one more small planting next year to fill out any holes that there are. But for the most part, the planting is done. Hey, thanks for sticking around and watching this far. I'll try and post a video on a regular basis, so check back in. And thanks for stopping by. Take care.